So, a while back, I made a video about the Kent State Golden Flash football program, how they're one of the more interesting, worst college football programs because they've only ever been to 3 bowl games, but yet they've had some pretty interesting players play in the NFL, including Jack Ham, who's a Hall of Famer, Antonio Gates, who, yes, didn't play football for Kent State, but ended up in the NFL Hall of Fame and is a Kent State alum for playing basketball, amongst others like Julian Edelman and Josh Cribbs, who were quarterbacks that ended up turning into receivers toward their time in their NFL. But there might be a team that is worse than Kent State, and they might not even be all that interesting, but looking at their history, yeah, it's a miserable program, and that is the Louisiana Monroe Warhawks, who started play in 1975 as an independent team, and actually played from 1975 to 1981, but then their football program completely just evaporated, disappeared. But then it came back in 1994, where they were once again in the independence till 2000. And during that time, they did have 2 winning seasons in 1978 when they went 6-4-1, and in 1980 when they were 7-4, which at the time was their best season. But in 2000, the team went just 1-10 and was announcing a move to the Sun Belt Conference, their first ever conference. And well, things continued not to go well, as from 2001 to 2011, they would finish with a losing record every single year and would continue to fail to make a bowl game. But then in 2012, the unexpected happened. Louisiana Monroe went to a bowl game. They finished the regular season at 8-4. To this day, the 8 wins in the season is most in the franchise history. They had a good quarterback in Colton Browning, who completed about 64% of his passes with 29 touchdowns and 10 interceptions to go along with 488 rushing yards. They did lose in their first and only bowl game up to this point to Ohio in the Independence Bowl, but needless to say, it was a great season for Louisiana Monroe standards, considering before this season they had won no more than 7 games, and it only had 2 winning seasons under their resume. The only thing is, this is also the last winning season that the school has had, as since 2013, once again, they have finished at 500 or below it every single year, having a couple of 6-6 seasons mixed in, but they didn't go to bowl games that year, and they even had a winless 2020 where they went 0-10. So looking at this program, they've had 3 winning seasons, 1 bowl appearance, no bowl victories, and have never been ranked inside the top 25, because at least I mentioned that with Kent State too, was they were ranked in the top 25 a couple of times, and even have an 11-win season under their belt. But with Louisiana Monroe, yeah, it's just not been anything spectacular. Now, I wanted to look at their alum and some, NFL players that actually did well that were from Louisiana Monroe, because I did that with Kent State, because I thought it would only be fair. And believe it or not, there's some pretty known names on this list, not anything that's like Hall of Famer worthy like Jack Ham or anything, but wide receiver Marty Booker played for Louisiana Monroe, and he carved out a nice 11-year NFL career as he was drafted in 1999 in the third round overall by the Chicago Bears. There was Bubby Brister, who played a long time, 15 years to be exact. He was a quarterback, and he was never great, but he had longevity and was around for a good while. There's also Jackie Harris, who was a part of those 90s Packers teams, including the one that went on to win the Super Bowl with Brett Favre in 1996, and Stan Humphries, who was another interesting one because he wasn't necessarily that great at the quarterback position, but he was a reliable starter for 9 years, I should say, and most of his success came during his time with the Chargers, which included helping them get to their one and only Super Bowl in 1994, kind of playing the role of game manager. There's also Doug Peterson, another notable QB who wasn't great, but carved out a 12-year NFL career mainly as a backup after, having some starting experience early on in his career. There's the fullback Alan Ricard, who I know from his time with the Ravens. He was one of the blockers for Jamal Lewis during his 2,000-yard season in 2003. So nonetheless, there's talent here, but also, like Kent State, they've never had a first-round pick. Their highest pick that has ever been in the draft was back in 2000 when defensive end Sean King was picked second round in the NFL draft by the Carolina Panthers, who at the time were an expansion team. It was actually 1995, that's my bad. He played in the NFL from 1995 to 1999. So again, this is another team that has had semi-success when it comes to bringing in NFL talent, but it's very rare that these NFL guys have any sort of success, and even when they do, it's short-lived and it's not necessarily memorable careers. It's just that they were solid pieces in the NFL on the teams that they played for. So all in all, where's Louisiana Monroe headed? Well, in 2024 they went 5-7, coming this close to a bowl game in head coach's Brian Vincent's first year, and so far as I'm making this video, they're 2-1 to begin this new season, so who knows, maybe they can get back to a bowl game for just the second time ever. But this seems to be a team that just lacks any sort of consistency, at least when it comes to winning, because they are consistent at losing. I mean, when you've been around for as long as they have, even with the 13-year kind of gap in between, because again, after the 1981 season, the football team folded and came back in 1994, to have just 3 winning seasons in your history, where 2 of them came from 1975 to 1981 before they folded, so just 1 winning season since your return in 1994, and no Sun Belt titles to your name, no bowl wins. Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. I mean, with an overall record of 156, 285, and 2, that just tells you a lot as to Louisiana Monroe as a team. They've gone through a ton of head coaches in their short amount of time. It has just not been pretty, and even when the team is mediocre enough, they just don't do enough to make bowl games, and they're just kind of stuck between, alright, we're mediocre, bad, there's really nothing better, or no in between there, and that's basically where this program is at. Again, like Kent State, they're not one where you're going to want to transfer to or go to or anything, because you know, your NFL chances are like slim, this team, but you know, they've brought in talent as most colleges have, and have had a peak of success somewhere. I mean, maybe just that one year in 2012 when they made the bowl and went 8-5, that was their like slither of success. But even the next year in 2013 they went 6-6 and weren't invited to a bowl game, so you know, they could have easily went back to a bowl game the very next year. But you know what? That's just my thought on Louisiana Monroe, not necessarily being a fan, but kind of just doing research. They were a team that I looked at and I said, wow, this is really it? Like, they don't give me much to go off of. Like, at least with Kent State, I was able to talk about their 3 bowl seasons and how they accomplished those, but there was only 1 bowl season to talk about here, and unlike Kent State, who actually had players who went to the NFL and were Hall of Famers in that league, UL Monroe has had decent NFL players, but nothing too worthy to talk about outside of, you know, a couple names who people know for longevity or just being halfway decent at what they did in the league. But yeah, for UL Monroe fans, would like to hear your comments below about how you feel about the program and its future moving forward, and will you ever find sustained success to at least win 7 to 8 games a year and make bowl games and even get your first bowl win sooner than later. But until then, that's it for me. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you all in the next one.